Are we on live?
Yes.
It's PNN, not CNN, people.
CNN.
Yeah, and that's poor people's radio. How about that? How about us poor people not being talked about with the corporate media? We don't need no more of that. We have our own voices. We have our own knowledge. Okay, Mote, take it away.
Bienvenidos y bienvenidas otra vez. Welcome again to PNN KSU Poor People's Revolutionary Radio at 96.1 FM on the dial in East Oakland, and streaming live online at www.poormagazine.org/radio. This is your co-host Muteado Silencio con voces de migrantes en resistencia. With Poor Magazine in studio with Poor Poets, formerly Houseless, povertyskola, mi canala Tiny, and Brother Minister King.
Video.
That's right.
Camper one day to go and take care of some business. It was about 1:30 in the afternoon when I had left. I had gone and taken care of my business and came back later that evening. When I got back to what I believe was going to be my camper, it was gone. I was informed that I guess it was supposed to have been the police had came and had towed my camper away with everything basically that I owned, my medicine, my personal belongings, paperwork, and et cetera, were all in the camper. And all I had left was the clothes on my back.
So you just saw a little excerpt of a powerful interview on Ruthless Radio. That's ROOF, done by our Youth Poverty Scholars, with Monique, a lifelong Oakland resident. I want to repeat that, a lifelong Oakland resident and currently houseless poverty scholar reporter. Bottom line is she was dwelling in her RV, not bothering anybody, taking care of her business, not making a mess, not any of the tropes that they say about us houseless peoples on these occupied streets, until she hit yet another deadly sweep. It is so much violence that's coming down on our relatives. These aren't people from somewhere else. These are folks, mostly Black elders. I want to just say that. Many of whom have been incarcerated before, many of whom are gravely disabled. I'm talking about your grandmama, your auntie, your papa. That's who's on the street of these occupied, violent colonial streets right now. Homefulness Hotel Fund, one of the projects that we do as poor and houseless people ourselves to practice radical interdependence, not the cult of independence, where we raise community reparations just to get folks inside, is currently working with Monique to try to navigate the ridiculously hard to get in so-called resources from the non-profiteers who receive millions of dollars to supposedly house us, but most of the time end up harming us with these ridiculous hoops that we have to jump through just for a crumb. In the case of Monique, after the city of Oakland took her home, took all of her medicine, took her clothing, they also took all her ID. So what does she got to do just to get that housing crumb? She has to have ID. How you going to get ID all over again overnight when it's been taken away and you don't even have a roof? So yeah, more soon from Monique. And if you're able to support the Homefulness Hotel Fund, you go on to Poor Magazine /poor/magazine on Venmo, or poormag@gmail.com on PayPal. I also want to shout out to Oakland Revealed and the Stop the Sweeps Coalition, to the beautiful warriors of Sagare and Jazz and Satya, and all the warriors who are out there trying to do anything we can to just stop this violent, endless sweeping of our communities like we were trash. It's actually just more settler violence. and it's all a lie because we don't have money for the rent. Video, the second video.
An unsold Mama Earth is growing. We riding into the wind, praying for lightness to take away the genocide of the pole life's ice, white brightness. The sorrow has numbed our dreams into one. Just to be free from another violent sweep, another deferred dream, just to be free. You and me and the wheels and the spokes and how it makes us feel on these stolen roads. We will survive. Palestine will be free and border terrorism will cease, and we will know because we will also see Wood Street Commons, Homefulness, and Poor Magazine riding out with Houseless you and Houseless me. We ride to resist the settler colonial lies of false borders.
You just heard an excerpt of The Rise in Resistance, a podcast from povertyskola in honor of Wall Street Commons Solidarity Bike Ride. Find povertyskola podcast on poormagazine.org. The bike ride happens this weekend, so please join Poor Magazine and Wall Street Commons as we ride out this Friday, October 10 at 1707 Wall Street at 8 a.m. gathering and 10 a.m. ride out. Go to wallstreetcommons.org to register and or to donate to offset their expenses. On tonight's Poor People's Radio podcast, we speak with Minister King X and warrior Louis Powell, an incarcerated elder, about his new book, Born Without Justice, and much more. Then a segment of formerly houseless, now homeful, at Homefulness, elder povertyskola and longtime Hobo on our newest Poor People's Radio segment, Hobo Junction.
Yeah, again, I just want to say this is PNN, not CNN, people. We appreciate you so much, all of the warriors who spend time with us in this grassroots media effort. We're trying to operate the ones and twos, so bear with us. You know, these digital streets are no joke. But really, this is just about getting our voices out there and making sure that stories that are not heard are getting heard. So I have the blessing of sitting next to a longtime warrior, a powerful brother of Poor Magazine, working all the time against these plantation prison systems, trying to liberate our elders, trying to make sure that art and culture is part of these movements, trying to fight the gentrifying forces and never giving up. Tonight we have the blessing of hearing from another warrior who is currently behind the razor wire plantations, Louis Powell, an elder who wrote a book, Born Without Justice. And so Minister King is going to tell us about this book, and maybe we even hear from Louis Powell himself. Go ahead, King.
Louis Powell!
Whee!
Back at it again. This is Minister King X of California Prison Focus Cage Universal. Again, reminding y'all we on 96.1 FM PNN KEXU Poor People's Revolutionary Radio. So for like the last couple years, Louis Powell been formatting his manuscript, telling his life story, Born Without Justice, life story is Compton street soldier. Louis Powell been incarcerated for decades. He was subjected to long-term sleep deprivation, long-term isolation, just because of his school of thought. We got him here today, and what I like to do is bolster those voices. I know some of the people just listening probably seen the movie Strike, and Louis Powell got also another project out with me personally called the Minneside Project, where he giving you a historical background. He giving you a historical background on the untold stories during the 2011-2013 hunger strike. So I want to bring him into the conversation, but before we do, I want to read some because earlier when I was talking to Louis Powell, he's one of them principal thinkers. He like to challenge your brain, your school of thought to see where you at. And he was talking about economical disadvantage, which describe individuals, students, or communities facing social and economic barriers to opportunities and resources due to limited capital, diminishes credit opportunities, poverty, or lack of essential resources like education, housing, and infrastructure. This disadvantage affects a person's ability to complete access healthcare and achieve social mobility, impacting their overall well-being in the broader economy. So I thought about limited access to resources, economical disadvantage. Individuals often have restricted access to financial capital, quality education, decent housing, adequate health care, public services, etc. So it came to me like we was all born without justice, this historical miscarriage, right? So that's what I would hope that Louis Powell educate the public today. While his book is really important, not just is it a memoir, but when you look on the cover of his book, it reflects everyone. Again, let me bring Louis Powell in. LP.
Hey, yes, sir.
So the floor is yours. You here with Tiny?
Hey, bro, how you doing? Thanks for being on Poor People's Radio.
And thank you for having me.
For sure.
And we got Mutiato.
Hey,
Move.
salute, comrade.
All right. One love. Yes, my book, Born Without Justice, it's of course about my life struggle. I ended social activism at the age of 16 years old. And I received one for the next 3 or 4 years. I received one of the best political education that one could receive. And I grew up in Compton, and the book's about the streets of Compton, the poverty. Compton had a lot of slumlords when I was growing up. And I committed myself to purging the city of slumlords.
Okay.
And eventually we were able to purge the slumlords out of the city of Compton. And now corporations own apartments and low-income housing and stuff, you know. But the struggle continues. The struggle is never ending. And I learned that you have to create liberated zones. Take, for instance, Oakland. You take a particular area in Oakland, and you take a half-a-mile radius, and you declare it a liberated zone. And so in a liberated zone, there's no drug activity. There's no activity. There's no vices whatsoever. And then other neighborhoods here is about this liberated. You have 60 seconds remaining.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we might have to go to a reset. I'm gonna call that a reset. 60 seconds. We're gonna reset. Louis Powell, won't you call us back? Okay, Tiny. So far, we just getting started.
Well, tell listeners who don't understand the Plantation Prison System call center, what that's about.
So, like a few years back, or maybe about 10 years ago, the inmates and their family, we had a lawsuit against CDC, small r. We say small r because the journey to freedom begins within.
And what does CDC stand for?
CD, California Department of Corrections, and rehabilitation.
Okay.
Rehabilitation is only if you want to pick up a book.
That's a lie. Yeah.
So the family sued CDCR because there was price gouging from commissary to phone calls and everything. It was just like we went from involuntary servitude to pimping the family, right? That's what they was doing. That's what the monster was doing. So they came through the lawsuit and settled. You had this senator named Holly Mitchell, she was advocating for the prisoners to have access to full phone calls, regular phone, cell phone. Instead, they got these tablets, and these tablets, they got these phone tablets, and these tablets collect all this data, right? So they watch how many phone calls you make, and they could go back because it's all recorded. So, you know, it's them just getting their information and strengthening their conservative effort to maintain their conservative effort to exist. So that's what you was hearing on this phone for people who don't know about the tablet. And
I just wanted to say before Louis comes back in, for any of y'all who don't know, over something crazy like 60 to 80% of relatives who are on the street are formerly incarcerated. These systems, and especially what Louis Powell's talking about in terms of born without justice, they're in every single category to keep every poor person, to incarcerate every poor person they get. So let's not get that twisted. These are all connected. Anyway, thank you. Go ahead, Louis. We're back, right?
Okay. And,
you were talking about the liberated zones. That was dope.
Yes. Once you create a liberated zone, and other neighborhoods want to be a part of it, because the liberated zone is a safe zone, especially for children and women folks. And then other neighborhoods become part of the liberated zone, and eventually you can cover over 10 or 20 miles of liberated zone. And what's beautiful about the Bay Area, Oakland, you know, Berkeley, and the whole West Frisco stuff, this militancy came from open radicalism, revolution curve from out of the Bay Area, and it's still there. We just have to be able to reach the youth. The youth right now are trapped in culture deprivation. And so we have to view the culture deprivation.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It's a culture war. And we have to go into it understanding that a culture war is at play. And there's going to be some forces out there who's going to want to prevent you from bringing about change. Believe me, poverty is make folks rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you interfere with that, you see what I'm saying? They're gonna use all different type of agencies, anything they can to neutralize you, to attack your character and everything else. They do not want you to overthrow what we call the ghetto or the concrete jungle, because that is long as poverty exists, they can send their children to colleges, and they can put food on their tables and buy new homes. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so we have to go into that understanding that we have to be able to reach our children at a young age. And when I'm talking about at a young age, I'm talking about between the years of 7 years old and 12 years old. And we have to reach them before they actually reach the age of 14 and 15, because they become too hardcore. The concrete jungles, the survival of fittest took over. Environmental deprivation that took hold of them, genocide that took hold of them. So we have to catch them at a young age, and we have to give them training. And when I'm talking about training, I'm talking about social training, economical training, culture training, and political training at a young age. And our neighborhoods are textbooks. See, I can walk the streets of Oakland or anywhere in the inner cities in the United States and see a living textbook in play. And help to educate people, give them a political education, something that they can understand. When you talk about gentrification, it's a way to explain it where a child will understand it. You see what I'm saying? And so it depends on your method of teaching. And we have to come up with the correct methodology of teaching our youngsters, making them receptive to learn.
Ashe.
To be educated.
Ashe. I don't know if Minister King has told you, but we do a a revolutionary liberation school here for low and no income Indigenous children. And absolutely with you on that. I want to get a copy of the book, and I'll definitely be sharing it with them as part of our curriculum. We do not lie to our children, family. We do not, and we make sure that they are learning liberation every day. So absolutely with you on that. I totally agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I just
Beautiful liberation.
that part? Can I just ask you, because we're running out of time, but can I ask you, Louis, in terms of your vision for the book, it's already published now, it's ready to go, or it's going to be finished, or what's the state of it right now?
The book is a bit published. It came out in August. Amazon was the publisher, and so the book can be obtained from Amazon.
Okay.
And it's only 108. It's only 118 pages. It's real easy reading.
Nice.
And
Okay.
when I say easy reading, it's real easy reading. And it's not one of those books full with violence. It's full with life experiences. The experience that I had growing up dealing with bullies, dealing with residential apartheid, dealing with institutionalized racism. And so, I grew up in a middle class background. And so in actuality, I didn't grow up in poverty. When I reached my teenage years as a political student,
It's like
I was introduced to poverty. In order to be a servant of the people, you have to understand the people's needs. You have to understand poverty. And so at a young age, I emancipated myself from my parents. And it was hard. I would tell you it was hard. But I learned about poverty. And so I'm able to speak on poverty. I don't use the word slums no more. That was a 1960 and 70 words. I use the term concrete jungle. That's what I think the words are now. Concrete jungle.
Navigate.
And intentionally that way too. If we take the mama trees and mama earth away from our young people, then they don't even understand what they're missing. I mean, right? And they become socialized to this violence and to this bleakness, that's so real. We got to close it out. Is there any last words that you want to say, or that Louis, would you like to say?
Well, the struggle continues. Each one teach one, and that's the principle that we must maintain. We teach the child, even the child can teach us. Each one teach one.
Ashe.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Ashe.
Hey, so I'm gonna close with another read how I started in the beginning, but before then, I wanna build on the concept of the liberation zones, the community safety zones, and how we can come together and create committees. Also, take antennas to other orgs, right, and have an organization alignment, and have an AEA street agreement of saying, okay, not only do we have these liberation zones, but we're gonna have shared humanity and Ubuntu involved, where we look out for each other economically, culturally, socially, right? And we look at our problems as each other problems. So if you're having a issue going on in your community, let's raise the bar and the consciousness about whatever you are going through, whether it's economics, where we need to come help you with your plumbing or whatnot. We need to bring that type of community back. And I think that coincides with the liberation zones, with the agreement, the end hostility street agreement. But right here it say 1875 disenfranchised. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 was a law passed during Reconstruction that guaranteed equal access to public accommodation and jury duty for African Americans, but it was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1883. The act banned racial discrimination and ends public transportation, theaters, and other public amusement places. So I'm gonna stop right there because I know we gotta close, but I was just basically alluding to the economical violence, the economical disadvantages that we were talking about, right? So all that go back rooted to the historical miscarriage of born without justice.
That part. And I do think it's important to name, because it's poor people's radio, okay? We don't play. we're at Homefulness, which is unbought, unsold, liberated Mama Earth. And we have actually settler legally and spiritually taken off the commodities market with our First Nations relatives and all of our prayer. But, our folks, our young people are absolutely in distress. We had to run out of the radio studio because we had two 14-year-old, to me, they're babies. As a mama, a 14-year-old is still a baby. And I hear you, Louis, about how they become hardened by this system. But they still my daughters and my sons, like real talk. I got so many. My point is that they were coming up looking for another young person who stays here with their mama, wielding weapons, like just a couple minutes before we came up in here. These young people are lost inside this lie, fam. Lost inside these lies. So this kind of work of Without Justice and the work that you're doing in the Liberated Zone and you, Mr. King, and just really like lifting up actual solutions to way that we can operate that aren't about hating on each other and basically, wielding weaponry as a solution. That's an actual real way to be bringing our young people into liberation. And I just want to say, it's an emergency. It's an emergency. So thank you, Louis Powell. Let's keep talking. Let's bring you back. Thank you, Minister King, for that beautiful work. And liberate our elders, fam. Follow Brother King on Minister King X. Where else can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, official Minister King X. All platforms where you can hear some of my political musicals. We're working on a short documentary that's coming out on
Call
TV.
and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
We dropping a whole series, the before, during, and after. It's just giving you a historical background before my arrest. Giving people the understanding that they got the right to protest.
That
You
part.
got the right to redress the government.
That part.
Because that's the Constitution.
Or the Constitution.
The Constitution.
By the stealing fathers. Okay, relatives, we Poor People's Radio, that's PNN, not CNN. We're going to be transitioning now to our newest segment, the Hobo Junction. Like, what's a hobo, fam? That's an old term. That's something they used to call us poor people. They still use it as a slur. Oh, they the hobos. And it's actually traveled out of the 1930s right into this moment right now, which is why we're blessed to have a warrior elder, a part of our family, formerly Houseless on the streets for many years, riding those trains as an actual so-called hobo, as one of our Homefulness elders, our teachers, our warriors, and our newest reporter. Come on in, Uncle Francis. As we're gonna bring him in. And Uncle Francis is also a poverty scholar. What do we even mean when we say poverty scholar? We mean somebody who didn't get necessarily a piece of paper from an institution saying that they are, learned. They learn what they did through their life. Life is a struggle. Life is an education. That's a street college. That's what we mean when we say the poverty scholars. Learning our knowledge from the street college.
Thank you.
Again, you're listening to PNN, KEXU, that's Poor People's Revolutionary Radio. Thank you to all the warriors who tune in, even on these digital streets. Thank you for bearing with us as we try to work the different technology that's definitely not made for us, but we work in it by any means necessary. So, Uncle Francis, new reporter for Hobo Junction. That's Poor People's Radio segment. First of all, can you break down again for listeners and viewers who might not remember, what's a hobo?
Hobo is a person that wanders and works.
Okay.
Yeah, and but he tends to like long vacations between jobs.
Okay. I love that. Okay. Can you tell listeners, first of all, when we were doing our project called Roofless Radio, that's ROOF, we were going on around these streets of occupied Uchun, to areas that used to have folks in them, right?
Yeah.
But it's now, instead of people, they have giant rocks that the city literally buys
And
for,
logs.
right?
Yeah.
Giant, basically formulated, crafted boulders that the city puts up that are I think something like $1,200 for each one. And in Frisco, it ain't any better. They put up these giant planters, and those are just codes for how they can remove benches, places to sit, windowsills, the city sidewalks themselves. But can you tell us, Francis, a little bit about what happened in some of those spaces that you remember in Oakland that are now got nobody in them when you were a hobo?
Well, I'm pretty familiar with Grand and Wood Street. That was a favorite haunt of mine. Most often when I was in Oakland, coming on a freight train, I'd get off at about that area, coming in from Emeryville side, and so there was always a hole in the fence there. I think that same hole. I remember that I was there when that hole was cut many years ago. I think it's still there, original hole. But right next to it is a big wide gate that's open most of the time, so the hole is not really necessary. But it's there just in case. The hobos say there's always another train and every railroad fence has got a hole in it. Take it easy. Anyhow, that whole area, when I was hopping the freights in and out, there was a lot of industrial stuff there, and many little cafes for the workers for lunch, breakfast and lunch kind of cafes. A lot of little corner stores, mostly owned by African Americans. It was a friendly place. And then after the '89 earthquake, it changed. And then also during Jerry Brown's term as governor, as mayor, his slogan was 10,000 by 10,000. In other words, his goal was to have 10,000 housing units, apartment units built in downtown Oakland by the year 10,000. And I think he pretty much got it, which changed the neighborhood. The other thing that changed the neighborhood was the construction of the freeway right through the heart of West Oakland. It destroyed the solidarity of that neighborhood. It was a very diverse neighborhood, Filipinos, African Americans. It was a very friendly neighborhood. And then after the '89 earthquake, things began to change. There was a lot of African Americans that moved out by then. There was a lot of vacant homes and in disrepair. And Jerry Brown, through his 10,000 by 10,000 deal, dissuaded the industry from staying. The industry left. Right there on Grand Avenue and Mandela Parkway was a Pacific Pipe Company, big. They made a lot of heavy industrial pipes. That moved out. Then the artists moved in, and that kind of changed the mood and the texture of the neighborhood. And generally so, because the artists, they're going to pretty up the neighborhood pretty quickly. That's because they're artists. Well, that was good and bad. When the artists came in and improved the neighborhood by beautifying it, well, that raised up the real estate prices, and that moved out. More lower income people moved out, and then the money moved in, and what I call the gentrification, folks, gentrification, and they fucked the whole damn thing up. I mean, a lot of things are changing. They remodeled that big housing project here in West Oakland. I mean, I think and then and then I think the thing that I was away for quite a few years from Oakland, and then I came back and I noticed a change, and I can't put my finger on it.
Mm.
There seemed to be well, for one thing, I noticed an increase in the number of homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a hobo is a homeless person. I never considered myself homeless because I wasn't looking for a home. I had a home. My backpack was my home. And I lived in a boxcar when I wasn't in the city, going down the track at 60 miles an hour. But the increase in, the economy, of course, went sour.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
By the 80s, Reagan destroyed the unions in America when he fired the air traffic controllers when they went on strike. He fired them all, and that was the beginning of the end of the strong unions. And that was also the beginning of the end of a time in America when a man or a woman with an hourly paying job, maybe a carpenter, a bricklayer, a mason, whatever, sometimes just by the man going out to work, a typical American family could buy a home on those wages. But it suddenly changed. If you get one of the changes was, and people think it's just a conspiracy bullshit, but the United States Chamber of Commerce commissioned Louis Powell, who eventually was appointed to the Supreme Court by Richard Nixon, to kind of go through, look at the history of the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, all of that stuff that happened in the 60s. Because it shook the establishment to their core. It frightened them, and they felt they needed to get control of things.
Yeah.
And Louis Powell wrote basically a blueprint of how to take control of the government and make things go their way, which ultimately what he presented in this memo. And Greenpeace made a really good analysis of that memo, if you can find it on the internet. Essentially, it was a blueprint that ultimately resulted in Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court. And other major changes.
Well, before you go on to that, just hold your thought for 1 sec, because I just want to name that you're also talking about the blueprint of capitalism, as I call it, right? And that was even from the beginning. Let's be real, from the Stealing Fathers to the Constitution. This was always meant to profit off, right, of Mama Earth. As a Hawaiian relative, from the islands and all of our indigenous cultures, we don't even believe in buying and selling of Mama Earth. And that's why I'm personally really interested in the Hobo culture, because I recognize that there's a part of that where it wasn't rooted in ownership. And I wanted you to speak on a little bit of that. So you talk about that's the spirit. I didn't have a home. Nobody had a home. They had their backpack.
Okay.
Tell me what you
right.
think of that.
Well, in many cases, the hobos, that group of people that identify themselves as hobos, there was no, you got to be this, that, or the other.
Right.
This is just the way you lived your life.
Yeah, the vibe.
Many of them were there. Some of them, as a result, when I first got into that culture, there were still a few of those left. As a result of the Great Depression, that drove many men and women onto the rails to come west to go where the farms were to just, cultivate fields, dig the weeds out, There was, there were certain areas, usually with good train connections, where the hobos tended to gather. whether you could go east, west, north, or south, and work was available.
Mm.
Oakland was one of them, and many other places. Roseville was a good connection place, but not a very friendly town. Uh, Out in the Midwest, I used to get on a train and get if I could get to Preston, Iowa at the right time every spring. I got a job all summer long on a farm.
Mm.
You know. Hobos never. I mean, we didn't put up tents except if we put up a rain cover if it rained. We didn't make permanent camps per se, but we had what was called jungles.
Mm.
These were areas where there was a cook fire under a tree usually, and next to a rail yard, and that's where we gathered. And there was, I mean, you can find it on the internet. Hobo, I think I forget what it's called now. There was rules of conduct within the hobo culture. You know, big deal is, you know, your name is mud if you ever steal from the jungle. You know,
Right.
there were rules of it. The townspeople were called civilians. Don't mess with the civilians. Don't piss them off because these are the people that are going to allow us to stay here. You know?
Right.
These are the people that are going to give us jobs if we're looking for one.
Right.
Now, some of them are assholes. You know?
Right.
And they're identified. You know, the hobos have signs where they were put on the fences. It's a good lady gives out good sandwiches or something like that.
Right.
Mean man lives here. Dad policeman here. They had all those signs. You know?
Tracking it.
Yeah, but you didn't mess with you didn't upset the townspeople. You didn't steal from within the jungle. You know, you go out there, want to be a thief, go ahead, be a thief, but you don't do it in the jungle. You know.
Wow.
There were trials. I mean, somebody. I mean, it was not a kangaroo court. You know.
Well, we're gonna come back because we're running out of time. We're gonna come back next week and talk about the criminalization because that's a whole thing. And I want to make sure that people understand that one of the things that changed, if you will, even in terms of the way this settler society interacts with houseless people, right, from hobo times to now, is the criminalization. So stay tuned, relatives. We'll be back with Hobo Junction next week. Okay.
The story will be different next week.
I want to say this
I'll
warrior,
forget what I said
this
week.
warrior right here. Don't worry, we won't. Right. I just want to again thank Uncle Francis, Hawaiian Portuguese from the island nations, but also right here at Homefulness, currently Homeful at Homefulness. How about that? Where we don't buy and sell Mama Earth. You're listening to Poor People's Radio. That's PNN, not CNN, relatives. Back to you, Moot. Let's just stay while it's done.
Again, community. Again, thank you for your patience as we are doing the streaming, being on this digital device. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you, Elder Uncle Francis, brother Minister King, Weston here on the ones and twos helping us engineer this show. All of you guys out there listening. So that's all for this edition of Poor People's Radio. To get your complete podcast, go to Poor Magazine on SoundCloud or poormagazine.org or whatever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, at Poor Magazine or at povertyskola or Poor News Network on YouTube. Gratitude to Anthony Fess, Anita Johnson, and David D for the media access. All power to the people. Cool.